are live here at the Tracy Take, starting off the 2023 NFL season. If you're still wanting to talk about football and not watch Seminoles upset PETA by abusing some little cats, welcome to the right channel, because we are about to start talking about the NFL season as it is less than 1 week away. Ryan, I am so pumped.
I know.
My daughter's first birthday. My daughter's first birthday is this Thursday. So we're going to have a huge, fun celebration. I was already talking with Dad and Brittany. We're going to come over. My wife, Brittany's my wife. Going to go over to Mom and Dad's place, watch football, celebrate her birthday, watch them. And it's going to be a fun time. I've really been looking forward to this week. And so especially, too, it's such a fun little appetizer with college football, especially because both of the teams that we root for suck. And so, except you did go to the Tech game.
I did, which was good, and they looked good for the first half, but they did not play well in the second half at all. So, anyways,
Georgia teams, more Georgia teams struggling.
Well, it's Atlanta teams, I think, in general is the.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. So,
more specifically, I should say.
Yeah. And so, are they still running the triple option down in Georgia?
No, they're more of a traditional spread college offense now.
Good. They had, who was that coach there? It was Paul Johnson.
Yeah,
was that his coach? But he just did the wing tee, and it's crazy to think too.
He has over 100 wins.
I'm sure he does.
Coach. Yeah,
I'm sure he does. But then it's funny too. You think about the type of offense that they had, and then Calvin Johnson came from there. Demaryius Thomas came from there. Who was the tight end?
Darren Waller.
Darren Waller came from Tech.
Yeah.
It's just these weird, you shouldn't be you shouldn't have one of the best receivers ever. and then Pro Bowl wide receivers and tight ends coming out of that program.
Yeah, I mean, Demaryius Thomas is honestly kind of a borderline Hall of Famer also. He had 6 years there. He was one of the best wide receivers in the league.
He might, and then especially too with his passing might posthumously. Is that how you
posthumously?
Yes, that's it. Might get in because you're right. He does some good years. Got a Super Bowl ring with Peyton Manning and stuff.
A couple 1,500-yard seasons, I think. So,
just a couple. And so, but it's neat too. This weekend's always fun. Labor Day weekend's college football because this channel focuses solely on the NFL. But it is fun to watch. I was watching Caleb Williams, watching Drake May. All these future draft prospects, potentially first, second round pick, just to get ready for the 2024 offseason, the draft, because who knows what's going to happen in 2023. But that is why we are here today. We are going to be providing our bold predictions for all 32 NFL teams. And we're going to be splitting them up. Since Ryan is a Patriots fan for some reason, he will be doing all the AFC bold predictions. I will be doing the NFC bold predictions because if you didn't already get the fact that all the Atlanta team references blowing second half leads. I am a Falcons fan, so I will be doing the NFC teams. And we have not spoken on what the bold predictions are, so I'm very curious to hear what your reactions will be to mine and also the mine to yours. And so do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start us off here. So we're going to start off with the East divisions. So first things first, we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills because they are the first in the AFC East in terms of alphabetically. My bold prediction is that they will actually finish last place in the division in 2023. We've talked a little bit about this on the channel. That offense didn't quite look the same last year. There's, in my opinion, a lot of questions around whether Stephon Diggs really wants to be there because there was his requesting a trade rumor, and then he did go out on Twitter and try to silence those. But the last couple seasons has been vocally upset with how the team has performed coming down the stretch. And I still think this offensive line is going to be a work in progress. They're going to struggle to run the ball in a traditional run game as well. This defense, I think, is going to take a step back after the loss of Tremaine Edmonds, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. Both of those guys are approaching their mid-30s. And so while they are great Bills defensive players, at a certain point, it just does get hard to kind of maintain that level of play. So, What do you think of that?
That was kind of what I was expected. It's one of those things. I agree with you. They started off the year hot, but then Von Miller got hurt. and he's now on the 4-game PUP list as well. Or he's still on the PUP list, so he's going to miss the first 4 games. And so he was kind of the lifeblood of that defense. And that's what I think, because as soon as he got hurt, that's just that overall that team just really went down.
Yeah.
And they just really seem to struggle in the red zone. They still struggle to run the ball, just like traditionally run the ball. Now with Josh Allen scrambling or design Josh Allen plays. So that's just going to be the biggest thing. If that offensive line improves and they're able to protect him, protect the run game, then I don't know if your bold prediction will come true. But if they're still struggling and they're still playing the kind of one-dimensional ball, and this defense is getting a little bit older, I can see it. And then with the Jets getting better, if Tua and the Dolphins,
everyone in the division is also better. I didn't say that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. So let's move on to mine. We will be going just kind of cross-divisional, and so AFC East, and then go to NFC East, and I'm starting off with the Dallas Cowboys here. My bold prediction is that the Dallas Cowboys will not have 1, not 2, but 3 1,000-yard pass catchers. I am talking about CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard. Wow.
Tony Pollard. He is honestly the only guy in that backfield that will – I mean, he's just going to be on the field for every single play. And with how much they like to throw the ball, with how aggressive that Mike McCarthy and that offense likes to be, we know CeeDee Lamb's going to get it. That's not a stretch. Brandon Cooks would not surprise me at all if he gets – he's already done it, I think, 6 times right now, right, with like 6 different teams or something. I'm trying to remember the exact stat. But
Saints,
Tony
Patriots,
Pollard,
Rams, Texans. He's been on 4 teams. He's had 6 1,000-yard seasons, I think.
That's what it is.
In like 7 or 8 years.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard's going to be obviously the X factor, but with how little there is behind him and how he is the guy now, he was splitting carries with Zeke last year, and he still was just eating it up. And then by splitting carries, it was like a 60-40, maybe 70-30 type split. But there were still catches, there were still yards that were going towards Zeke. And I think that Tony Pollard is not just going to get all of it. And so I don't think that's that far of a stretch. They do still have like tight ends and Michael Gallup, yes, but I mean, Brandon Cooks is one of the most consistent receivers in the league.
Do you think Tony Pollard will do 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving?
I think that is also possible as well, just because of like he's going to be on the field for the entire game. Like he's in his prime right now. They can just absolutely use him. He is a workhorse for them. So that's essentially kind of what he was turning into last year, but Zeke would come in more for goal line situations.
Okay. Interesting. No, I mean, I like that. I think Tony Pollard showed last year he's a fantastic dual threat running back, right? He can both run and catch do just about anything you ask him to do on the field. So I definitely think 1,000 yards is possible for Tony Pollard. Fantasy owners will be very happy to hear that. Next up on the list is going to be the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins, they had a really interesting offseason, in my opinion. They addressed not a lot of things that I felt they needed to address, specifically this offensive line. The only piece that they put towards the offensive line was a 6th-round pick, and that's just not enough from what they had last year. But with that being said, they did invest in Devon Achane, and I really like him. So I'm going to go – the Dolphins are going to have a top 3 offense in the NFL. Their weapons are elite. I think Tua beefed up a little bit due to some of his injuries, but I think you look at their weapons, specifically Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and then throw in Devon Achane. They have so much speed that they're just going to be really hard to compete with. You couple that with Mike McDaniel's offensive mind, and this offense is just going to be nearly unstoppable.
Well, and we've seen this in the past too, where when there's a new offensive coordinator or a new head coach bringing a new offensive philosophy, and I think this could also apply defensively as well. Maybe not as much, just because maybe this is a controversial take, but like defensive schemes can be a little bit. It can be not as complex, you know. So it just depends on the personnel on the field. But with offensive, it can get so complex now, and having that full year within the system. And then you're bringing essentially the entire personnel back. I think that they could be extremely explosive, especially now just having an even more elite runner as well with Devon Achane.
I think your microphone is your headset, and I think it's rubbing on your beard.
Is
Can
it
you
really?
check it on the thing? Sorry, it just made me laugh. No.
Oh,
Like, can you
are
check
you
it on
talking
the
about this?
computer? On the computer, like you see where your microphone is. Can you
Oh
check to
yeah,
see it is? Okay, sorry, I could hear it, and I was like, "Is that what that
perfect.
is?"
That's what that is. I'm like, I don't think I'm not that close to it.
No,
Here,
yeah,
can you hear
yeah,
that? Okay,
exactly. There you
perfect.
go.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, there you go. That's what I was doing. So,
yeah.
all right, let's move on now to the New York Giants here. And with the Giants, a lot of different ways they can go here, but I'm actually going to focus on their new offensive acquisition in Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller is going to have 8,000-yard season. I think he's going to stay healthy. That's honestly just the biggest factor is that he stays healthy because we know he can do that. So that's really honestly just actually what this bold prediction will be because if he can stay healthy, he is now a huge target over the middle, and he fits so well into this Brian Daboll offense where he's just able to scheme guys open on short, medium, and long routes, and deep routes. Sorry, and he's just going to fit really well into the system. I think he's going to have a 1,000-yard receiving season.
Okay, yeah. No, I think Brian Daboll is going to use him very well. I mean, you look at what he was able to do getting tight ends in space in New England and in Buffalo, and that's just uses them very well. And I think Daniel Jones will take a liking to his ability to get open quickly. So I like Darren Waller in New England or in New York. Next up is the New England Patriots, and kind of sticking in that pass catcher role. I'm going to go with the two rookie wide receivers that New England drafted, the 6th-round picks. I really think that those guys are going to be making plays this year. One, I think they have the talent to. Two, they also are going to need to. But I think those guys are going to combine for over 1,200 yards and over 8 touchdowns.
Okay.
I just like what they bring to the table. Demario Douglas more than Kayshon Boutte, but they both have a role in this offense, and I'm excited to kind of see how they progress throughout the year.
I like it. So moving on now to the Eagles. The Eagles, there's a lot of different ways I was thinking about going with this, but I think I'll actually just kind of go pretty simple on this one. The Eagles will return to the Super Bowl this year.
Okay.
I'll just go pretty simple.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty safe bet, I guess, if you're the odds
makers. There's some good teams.
There are.
Oh yeah, there's some good teams in the NFC, and there's some good teams in their own division that I think could overtake them. But
I actually think all 4 of those teams in the NFC East are playoff teams. Like they could potentially make a run for the division or a wild card spot. So that is a tough division.
Yeah.
Last team in the AFC East is going to be the New York Jets. And maybe I'm just a little bit bitter on this one, but my bold prediction is that the New York Jets are going to lead the NFL in sacks allowed. Just because this offensive line is not good. They were top 5 in that category last year, and they didn't do themselves a whole lot of favors this year. Also, I think you look at the pass rushes in that division. Von Miller's coming back for the Bills. The Patriots pass rush was top 5 last year, and it really only got better with the addition of Keon White. Josh Uche is kind of coming into his own. And then the Dolphins brought in Vic Fangio, who kind of founded the modern day defensive shell schemes where it was cover 3, but it's bringing 5 guys every time. So it's going to be interesting to watch this Jets offensive line. If they have a weakness, it's this point of the team. So
no, that's going to be the make or break for them the entire year. Yes, the quarterback play last year was poor, but it definitely kind of took everybody away from the key issue, which was their offensive line. And if you don't have an offensive line, it doesn't matter how good or great the quarterback or how good or bad the quarterback is behind center. Even though last year they did have bad quarterbacks behind center also, which didn't help the solution. This will be a very interesting storyline to watch. And come Monday night on September 11th, actually, when they play the Bills in New York, that's going to be a very that to me is just going to be the key storyline. But not the key because Aaron Rodgers, it's his first game with the Jets. That'll be the second main story to watch. So moving on now, going on to the final team in the NFC East is going with the Washington Commanders. Washington will make the playoffs this year. Eric Bieniemy as a new offensive coordinator. Sam Howell, yes, is going to need to be managed just because of just don't really know how well he's going to do in a full season as an NFL starting quarterback. But by all accounts and by all reports, he's been doing well in training camp and in preseason. If you go look at the entire roster, like they're above average. I would say that they're top 16 team. And so there's just some question marks with the quarterback position. Young in the secondary, yes, but they have one of the best front seven in the league. They've improved the offensive line. Their receiving core, top 10.
It's top 10. Yeah.
I would say top 10, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dawson, Curtis Samuel. And then they still have who's
Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas, yeah.
He's getting older, but
then still
reliable.
It just for a young quarterback to come into, and they have a good offensive line as well. For a young quarterback to come into and get his first full start, you do have a veteran quarterback backing him up just in case if things do go south. I think that they are in a good spot. They almost made it to the playoffs last year. They just had better quarterback play with Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke. So Commanders are going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like their chances to make the playoffs. They're in a weaker NFC, and this defense led the league in quarterback hits last year. And all around, we saw some of the best pass rushing defenses we've seen in a long time. New England had 2 guys with double-digit sacks. Philadelphia had like 70-something sacks. And then that doesn't even include San Francisco, Los Angeles, both Los Angeles teams with Aaron Donald, and then Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. So definitely one of the best front sevens in the league, if not the best. So let's move on now to the North divisions. So AFC North, going to start out here with the Baltimore Ravens again, going alphabetically. For me, I'm going to stick with my rookie receiver trend here. Zay Flowers was one of my favorite prospects coming out of the draft, just as a whole, not even as a wide receiver. And I think Zay Flowers is going to be the rookie receiver to watch this year. Ravens have said that they want to throw the ball more. I think Zay Flowers not only leads rookie receivers, I think he has over 1,200 yards by himself.
Yeah, probably. Because I also think too, if you go look at the competition there with him, I mean, him or Odell, I'm definitely going to prefer Zay Flowers just with his youth. And so we don't really know what Odell is going to bring. And then who's the other receiver?
Rashad Bateman.
That's it. Okay, yeah. And he's been inconsistent during his time here. Mark Andrews is going to take a lot of targets away from him. But Zay Flowers, I think, can break off. And you said 1,200?
Yeah, 1,200.
I'll definitely concede to 1,000. I think he'll have 1,000-yard receiver.
Yeah, I think so. Like for me, they don't have that slot receiver. I know they have Mark Andrews who plays over the middle, but he definitely is more of a seam stretcher rather than like one of those move tight ends that's going to be running whip routes and out routes and in routes and things like that. He's more of a seam stretcher, and he's very good at what he does. But Zay Flowers, I just think he's so electric with the ball in his hands that they're going to just scheme up ways to get him the ball. And man, do I love watching him run with the ball in open space. We got a little appetizer there in the preseason. Yeah.
So moving on now to the NFC North, the Chicago Bears. This is going to be the first year, and I can't believe this hasn't happened, especially with like just the overall, just with all the other franchises. But Justin Fields will be the first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards in Bears franchise history this year. Adding DJ Moore.
Cow.
Yeah, never
I
happened.
didn't realize that hadn't happened.
That has not happened. So DJ Moore addition, Cole Kmet has come along as well. I think then also you throw in Khalil Herbert, Dante Foreman, and Rashawn Johnson. Rashawn Johnson is a little bit better at catching the ball out of the backfield compared to the other guys, but all 3 of those running backs can catch out of the backfield. I think that is just the sum of its parts, and now just with the 17-game season, it's like eventually it's going to happen, and I think this is going to be the year. If it doesn't happen this year for Justin Fields, there might be some talks on is he the guy, but we'll have to see what the final record is and everything. And so stats aren't everything. So
yeah, no, I mean, he definitely has the offensive line and receiving group to do it. I think now it's just the question of if he can actually do it. So I'm looking forward to watching the Bears this season. Next up, we're going to do the Cincinnati Bengals. For me, I think Joe Burrow throws over 5,000 yards this year. This offense is tailor-made for throwing. Joe Mixon getting older, they're not really going to be able to run the ball like super well. And so I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, those guys, they're just going to be having a field day this year. And Joe Burrow eclipses that 5,000-yard mark for the first time in his career.
I like it. Once again, 17 games. Like, it's going to happen eventually. I think this is going to be the year to do it. So, the Detroit Lions, if you follow this channel for a long time, we have been big fans of the Lions. And I think they are going to make the NFC Championship game this year.
Yeah. Against the Eagles, I guess, because that was your Super Bowl prediction.
Yes, that's a Super Bowl one. Yeah, they're going to go into Philly. Not going to get it this year, but they are going to go into the NFC Championship game. I think that they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and so who knows? Maybe they could beat the Eagles. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have the offensive line, and if this defense can play how it did the last 8 games of the season last year, I think they could definitely go in there and maybe sneak out a win. So, next up, we're going to do the Cleveland Browns, and it's hard not to make a joke here, but my prediction for them, I think Kevin Stefanski loses his job midway through the season. This team, in my opinion, has a fantastic roster, and Kevin Stefanski, they had a lot of questions last year about his ability to coach this team, and this is kind of a make or break season for him. Browns are definitely in the market for a coach at the end of the year, but you look at this division, the other 3 teams are as good on paper, and they're better coached. And so I think he might be a little bit of a Frank Reich situation there where he gets let go around week 13 or 14.
Yeah. No, that's a great point too, because he is by far the weakest coach in that division.
Yeah.
Zach Taylor's led the Bengals to a Super Bowl when no one thought that they could do it. Then don't even have to go into explaining why John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin are the better coaches. And so I think they've been with both organizations now for 14 years apiece. I know Mike Tomlin's been there longer.
Yeah.
They both have Super Bowls. Yeah, so it's not even close. Yeah, he needs to step it up and be able to show that he can compete against these guys. So moving to the Packers here. Packers have a super young receiving core with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs being the most experienced of all the pass catchers. And I'm not including Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon. But I bring that up to focus on, I think Christian Watson is going to have a 1,500-yard receiving season just because I don't think there's really going to be anybody else. He's the guy. And he has freakish talent, as we saw come on towards the end of last year. I think Jordan Love has a lot of upside and a lot of optimism. They've only been developing his talent for the past 3 years now. And I know it's preseason, but he still just looks like stupid explosive. And him and Jordan Love seem to be on a different connection. I know it's preseason, but I also just wondered too where else they're going to be able to throw the ball. So,
well, first off, I hope that's true. I drafted him in fantasy. So, but I also, as a Patriots fan, they had the joint practices, and the common theme of that practice was, man, Christian Watson looks really freaking good. And I love his story coming from North Dakota State. Came in last year. He actually struggled with drops the first few games of last year, and then really turned things around and was a solid receiver for them down the stretch of last season. So I like that. I think that's definitely doable for him. Last team in the AFC North here, we're going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for me, I think Kenny Pickett throws for over 4,000 yards and over 30 touchdowns this year. Coming into his second year, he has a much improved offensive line. They're going to be able to run the ball a lot more, keep defenses more honest. George Pickens looks fantastic. Deontay Johnson is another great receiver. Throw in Pat Freiermuth as well, and that's a 3-headed monster you have as in that pass catching room. So I like what the Steelers have a lot. Also, this defense is going to keep them in a lot of games, and that's something to be said for because he's going to be getting a lot of meaningful snaps and throws this year.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. The Steelers are a very fun team to watch, very young team. I mean, T.J. Watt alone leads that defense one of the best defenses in the league. And offensively, they've been hitting on all of their pieces. And so I believe that they're one of the few teams that is not a division winner lock or division winner favorite, I should say, but a playoff lock, especially too in that tough AFC. So moving on now to the final team within the Minnesota Vikings. I could go negative here because I've not been, unfortunately, very optimistic about the future of the Vikings, but I will be positive here. I feel like the Vikings are going to be trailing a lot this season, which means that Justin Jefferson will be able to break the single season receiving yard and have over yards in a season and have over 2,000 receiving yards. So the record right now is 1964 by Calvin Johnson, and I believe he's going to break that. Once again, 17-game season, we know it's bound to happen. I think this is going to be the time.
Yeah, and if there's a guy that can do it, he's definitely the one this year because other than Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson is going to be eating up those targets. And
they do have TJ Hawkinson, but at the same time, don't like it. He's only going to be able to take away so much. Kirk Cousins, he just knows okay, I just need to throw it in his direction, and Jefferson's going to win the majority of the time.
Yeah, and he does so much after the catch. He's one of the best route runners in the league. He does so much after the catch that is just phenomenal. And then, he can play inside, outside. He can do whatever. So I would love to see him break that record this year. But next up, third division set on the roster: AFC South, NFC South. Starting off, Houston Texans, again, going alphabetically. Houston Texans, this is going to be a season of moral victories for them. But I'm going to say I think C.J. Stroud breaks the rookie touchdown pass record for a rookie quarterback. I think it's 26, I believe, is Dak Prescott. Or no, it's Baker Mayfield, actually. He threw 26 his rookie year in Cleveland. And I think C.J. Stroud comes out and breaks that. They're going to be behind a lot in games, much like Minnesota. And I think not necessarily garbage time, but late in games, they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. I sneaky like this receiving room. I like Tank Dell a lot coming out of the Senior Bowl. John Mechie's coming back as well. Nico Collins. And then they also have Dalton Schultz, the tight end from Dallas last year. So definitely a pretty good receiving room. And then also Dameon Pierce can catch out of the backfield as well. So I think he breaks that record.
I like it. I think a lot could happen with the Texans, and so who knows? I agree, though, it's going to be a season full of moral victories. So moving to the NFC South, starting off with my team, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons will host a home playoff game this year, which means they will win the division in the NFC South. Mm-hmm. I believe that they are just on the right trajectory, while all the other teams have declined or stayed stagnant, are just going through turnover, with the Panthers, so to say. So it's going to be a good year. They have a fairly easy schedule. I mean, honestly, a lot of their tougher games are earlier on, against the Lions and the Jags. But in general, though, they are playing a lot of teams that they played last year that they beat or almost beaten, should have beat. So they've improved. So I think it's going to be a good year for the Falcons. Yeah,
and I'm going to add on to that. I think the Falcons are going to be the number one rushing team in the NFL this year. This offensive line is really good in the run game. They were third, I think, last year with Tyler Algier running the football. And I think you throw Bijan Robinson into that mix, and that's a recipe for success.
This is an offense that didn't throw the ball for the entire half, and they just ran. And they won the game, and the coach bought a six-pack for each of the linemen. This is a run-heavy team. They prioritize running the ball down your throat, and they know, and they're going to run it, and they still do it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that for them. Indianapolis Colts up next on the board. For me, you got to look at that quarterback position again, much like the Houston Texans, and I think Anthony Richardson is going to be an 800-yard rusher in 2023. You look at what they're going to want to do with the football. Throwing it, yes, they will definitely want to work on Anthony Richardson's decision-making, accuracy, and just overall fundamentals. But where this offense's bread and butter is going to be is moving the football behind that offensive line. And whether Jonathan Taylor is there or not, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a huge benefit, or is going to see a huge benefit from running behind what should be one of the best offensive lines in football.
Yeah. Shoot, with Jonathan Taylor being out for who knows how long, you can make that a 1,000-yard rusher. To be honest, he can have a Justin Fields like season where he rushes for well over 1,000. I think Justin Fields.
He had like
1,300.
Yeah, he had like 1,300, but like 600 came in like a 2-game or a 3-game stretch. Like, so
doesn't matter what the score.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it was like Patriots. I think the Falcons were on there, and then the Lions were one as well, where he had like over 200 yards rushing.
Yeah. So moving on though now to the Panthers. There's a lot of different ways I think that we could go here, but I think the Panthers, I will say, in the first season their Week 18 game will mean something, but they will fall just short of making the playoffs. I think it's going to start off slow for the Panthers, but they're going to fall just one game short. I do think that this team is going to be on the rise. They're going to want to add some young receivers because I just am not. I think what's going to hold them back is Adam Thielen, DJ Chark are going to. They're just not going to be the receivers number 1 and number 2 that they're used to being. Mm-hmm. And with Bryce Young coming in, he's just going to need some more youth, and it's just part of the rebuild for them. So the Week 18 game will mean something, win and you're in, but they will not make the playoffs.
Yeah. That's an upgrade of what they were last year. So I think it's going to be an exciting season for the Panthers. I do think them and the Falcons are the 2 favorites to win that division. But so next up on the roster is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to the AFC Championship game. And I think there's a potential it could be in Jacksonville. I think this team is so good. I really like Trevor Lawrence. There was a flip that switched in his head midway through last year that you can really see the progress he's making. And this Jacksonville offense is going to take huge strides, I think, this year with the addition of Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence making those improvements.
Well, and they started 3-7, and then they won
like 8 straight,
something like that. So then,
well, I think they were 3-6, and then they finished 11-6.
No, because the game mattered. I think they both Titans and the Jags were 8-8 going into that final game. And so then they went 9-8, and then they beat LA Chargers, and then almost beat Kansas City. That's going to be interesting to watch. And once again, too, just how spoiled we're going to be over the next decade. Knock on wood, because we've already talked about Joe Burrow. We just talked about Trevor Lawrence, how great he is. Then what was the first division? The AFC East. Then we have Josh Allen as well. Well, no, but that's what I was going to say. We haven't even gotten to the NFC West or the AFC West with Mahomes and Justin Herbert. And so, and this is just to say, even like who says C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson don't pan out and are amazing, you know? And so, and you never know about Will Levis, but probably not. But anyways, moving on though now to New Orleans Saints. Similar, I think, to the one I said about the Vikings, where I could go a negative route here. But just because with the Saints overall, I just feel like the team's not as great as what the people who comment on our Saints videos as they respectfully disagree with me. But that being said, though, I do really like Chris Olave. He is one of the top receivers in the league. We saw this last year with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams had a 1,600-yard season, and I think that's what Chris Olave is going to do as well. I think he's going to have a 1,600-yard season because he is the main guy over there. Alvin Kamara has a 3-game suspension. I don't really think there's not really too much else that they can throw to. I do like Jawan Johnson as a tight end option. I know they have Rashid Shaheed, and then it's funny, people keep mentioning Michael Thomas, but has he played?
The dude hasn't done anything in 4 years.
Well, has he played 16 full games in 4 years? I don't think he has. So we all know what that talent was in the 1 or 2 good seasons that he had 5-6 years ago. But I just don't think that he can contribute the way that people think that he can.
Not consistently. He's also had a ton of injuries. He's not the same player. Yeah.
But Chris Olave is. Chris Olave is that guy. We've seen his talent from going all the way back to Ohio State. And he had a really good year last year with Andy Dalton throwing to him. So now he does a Derek Carr, which is an improvement. So, and I say that, and maybe if there are other guys, and if I'm wrong, the Saints could pull out and can win this division, because this division is gettable for all the teams in some capacity.
Yeah. But let's move on now to the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to kind of follow suit with what you said with Justin Jefferson. I think Derrick Henry breaks the single-season rushing record this year. He's been very close a couple times, and I think this is the year he gets it done. This offensive line should be much better. I think the DeAndre Hopkins experiment is going to actually pay more dividends in the run game than the passing game, just because I don't think they're going to have the most lucrative passing offense in general. But what it's going to do is keep defenses honest and just from putting 8 guys in the box, because it still is DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. It's not the Julio Jones that they signed 2 years ago to come in, who's been injury riddled for 6-7 years. Like, this is still a true number 1 wide receiver. So I really like what they did getting him, Peter Skoronski, Andre Dillard in the draft. I actually even like the Jalen Duncan pick in the 6th round. I thought he would go somewhere in the late 3rd. So I really like that. Derrick Henry, he's going to feast. He's going to be really the only guy getting true running snaps. I know they drafted Tajay Spears as well. But I like him to break the rushing record.
Yep. No, I really like that prediction here. And so 2,105 yards Eric Dickerson had, so he needs 2,106. I think that's absolutely possible. But you're right, though. I think, and that's a great point about DeAndre Hopkins adding him, because they don't need Hopkins. I think Hopkins, if it brings in a Super Bowl, Hopkins would gladly be a decoy. It's like, and you're right. Spread out the defense there, and Peter Skoronski and Andre Dillard, that combination, by all reports, has just been absolutely lethal in all the preseason games and in training camp as well. So very curious to see. Dylan Verdun's as well is a guy that they drafted a couple years ago. He's sliding in now as the official starting right guard. So lots of improvement there. They just need to stay healthy. That was their biggest issue last year. I think I saw one stat in like week 16 or week 17. They had 80 different players play a snap, which is absurd. And so I think it was a record-breaking, to show how many injuries that they've had. But moving on now to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield is their starting QB, which means that it is almost time for a rebuilding season. And this is just a stopgap year, I think, for the entire franchise. And so that being said, Mike Evans is a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He has broken 1,000 yards in every single season, I believe, actually, except for the first time, except he didn't do it last year. Could you double check that for me?
No, I thought he did it. He had like
1,001, like he barely did it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Either way, though, to show he is one of the best receivers to ever to come in and play the game.
He had 1,035.
Okay, perfect. So he can keep that streak going, and I have a feeling he does not want to stick around.
1,124. My bad.
Oh, okay. I believe he does not want to stick around for a rebuild, knowing that he wants another Super Bowl ring. I believe that he will not end the season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He will be traded at some point, whether it be to the Jets, whether it be to Kansas City, whether it be to Jacksonville, Los Angeles Chargers, Denver. I don't know. So, but he will not end the season in Tampa Bay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there were some trade rumors with him this offseason. I think they're kind of trying to hold on hope, but
well, they absolutely are, because and it's what a lot of people have said in our videos, where it's like they've gotten rid of veteran players, they brought in youth. You still have these top receivers. You go, yes, but it's like you go look at the core of last year. Also, too, Ryan Jensen seems like I believe it's official, like he's done for the season.
Again? I didn't see that.
Well, did you hear about his? So he never got surgery. He got stem cell to try and rejuvenate the ligaments, and something happened and it stopped working. And so then he still doesn't have the surgery, and his knee keeps popping. I saw that. Now that being said, I saw that on Pat McAfee. So double check the source.
It's on ESPN. He's out for the year.
Okay, so I would say that's pretty official then. Anyways, but what we're seeing now too with NFL teams are not afraid to make these trades. Like last year, there's so many like skill position players that were traded. And it seemed like a baseball trade deadline where all these pieces just keep being moved, because now teams are starting to realize that, hey, these pieces are interchangeable. A lot of the route trees are very similar. A lot of the studying, and also, but then too, it's like it's up to you. It's like, hey, no, this is your job. You have to get traded. You have to study. You have to learn the playbook, and then you slowly get integrated for just a couple of opportunities that might give you an advantage, give that team an advantage over another team to make it to the playoffs. So Mike Evans definitely gives a lot of teams that advantage. And imagine then too, let's say the Jets. You have Garrett Wilson on one side and Mike Evans on the other. I don't think that would be a horrible matchup. Or like the Raiders. You have Devontae Adams on one side, Mike Evans on the other. I wouldn't hate it if I'm the fan of that team. So
yeah, definitely. And we'll have to see kind of how injuries go throughout the year because sadly that is a part of the game. But all right, let's move on to the last set of divisions here, and we're going to do the West divisions. Kick things off with Denver Broncos because I've said this every single time. We're doing it alphabetically. So Denver Broncos going to start it here. Jarrett Stidham will start more games for the Denver Broncos in 2023 than Russell Wilson.
I like it.
That is my bold prediction. Russell Wilson is on probably the shortest leash, I think, of any starting quarterback in the NFL right now. His performance last year was so abysmally bad. It doesn't sound like it got that much better in training camp. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how the story continues to progress. If there's one thing for certain, Sean Payton will not hesitate to bench the potential future Hall of Fame quarterback, which is kind of crazy to think about after the season he had last year.
We'll have to see how the season progresses, but it absolutely could taint his Hall of Fame resume.
Yeah.
If it continues, because this will go down as it's just a very horrible end to one's career. Because then with the contract, no one's going to want to take on that contract. Who's going to want to start him, especially too then with the huge youth movement that we have coming on. A lot of teams really have quarterbacks. The only other one is that might be an issue with struggling for a quarterback. We'll talk about next. But that also being said, though, part of my prediction that I'll get to, they will be getting a quarterback in early in the 2024 draft, or potentially could. But I don't know if he'll be a Hall of Famer. I mean, also too, if you go,
he's not first ballot anymore. He was on track to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he could have been one of the great quarterbacks of this era, and he's ruined that already, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
but I think he could be a guy if there's a weak class in 25 years, maybe he gets in.
Yeah.
So,
well, especially too, he does have a Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl that he won was the defensive juggernaut team.
Yeah.
It was that horrible blowout against the Broncos. Then the next year, arguably, I mean, I know I'm a Falcons fan saying this, but I don't even know if it's arguably, but the worst call ever, in Super Bowl history.
Yeah.
Not handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch.
There's a funny interview with Marshawn Lynch, and they're in the huddle, and all the guys are all right, which way is Marshawn running? And then he was like, oh, we're doing this pick play. And they were like, okay. So it was a great play by Malcolm Butler. It was a horrible call.
It is the worst call. It'll always go down as what the heck were you thinking? I know this family friendly YouTube show, but but still it really is. And also then too, and then that's maybe unfair to say, but I'm looking at other Hall of Fame quarterbacks in that situation. You call an audible. I don't care what the play is, but it's the coach as we're doing this would be no, we're calling an audible.
I couldn't imagine. So the Patriots just went down and they threw the ball on the 5, I think, on a whip route to Julian Edelman. And it was I think it might have been inside the 5. They were also behind, and it was getting close to a minute left. They didn't want the clock to keep going. And so that's why they threw the ball. I couldn't imagine if the roles were reversed, Bill Belichick would have thrown that pass when he had LeGarrette Blount, who's the light version of Marshawn Lynch. And he's all right, we're going to run the ball right down the middle 4 times.
Oh, yeah. So, and I have to go back and double check. Pretty sure they did have timeouts. I mean, it's been a second. And then even then how they got to the 1 yard line or the 2 yard line, whatever it was off that freakish, crazy catch by who was that receiver? I forget who it was.
Ricardo.
I think he was number 15.
Yeah, it was 15. I can't think of it.
Anyone in the chat, let us know. I'm blanking on it right now.
Yeah.
But It's absolutely absurd. And then after all that, you have all that momentum. You're like, whoa. And it's like, you're not going to do just the obvious. Like, sometimes you just got to do the obvious play. Actually, now I'm solidifying for myself that Russell Wilson should not be in the Hall of Fame at all. And so, but
Jermaine Kearse.
That's it. Yeah.
They had was it Ricardo Allen?
No, Ricardo Allen was the safety from Purdue for the Falcons for several years.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's move on, though. Now we can absolutely make fun of Russell Wilson all season for the rest of the year. But let's move on now. Let's move on now to the NFC West, to the Arizona Cardinals. This one, to me, this is bold prediction for sure, because it's only happened to two other teams. But Arizona Cardinals are not going to win a game this year. If you go look at this roster, in my opinion, it is just very sad how awful this team is. They're definitely preparing for first overall pick. And if the Texans are horrible, then they can also have the number 2 overall pick, or at least another top 5. And then that then brings in some questions, and I don't want to get into this bold prediction just yet because we got to see what happens with Kyler Murray. But I don't know how they move that contract. But if you're talking about just complete rebuild, get everything new, you get rid of Kyler Murray, you go get Caleb Williams, you go get Drake May with that first overall pick next year.
Yeah.
Or Michael Penix or Bo Nix. Probably not. It's probably going to be.
I have a hot take on Drake May, but Caleb Williams is the guy. I mean,
yeah. Dan Orlovsky might not agree with you. Doesn't officially agree with you. I'm just kidding. I agree with you. I also think too. Caleb Williams, I think overall has just a little bit better stuff, especially right now, even mechanically. But we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Well, see, they both have looked good in my opinion so far. Even though I know Drake May did throw a couple picks in that game, I didn't see him. I need to go. Well,
he did not look good from the parts I watched. He froze up in the second half when they were trying to ice it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. I did miss that part, and so, but either way, though, I think that they will be top 5 and they'll have their picks. But I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they will not win a game.
Okay. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs. I'm actually going to go with maybe a negative bold prediction here, just because I don't know if I really have faith in the pieces around Patrick Mahomes. So I am going to go with the Chiefs will not have a top 8 offense in the NFL this year. You look at that offensive line, they've lost a lot of, I don't want to say depth, but they lost both of their tackles from the Super Bowl last year. Replaced those guys with two right tackles, I believe. Jawan Taylor, and then I forget the name of the other guy.
Donovan Smith is there.
Donovan Smith. Oh, he is a left tackle. He's just like 31 or 32. Yeah. So he is a little bit older. But then they lost Juju Smith-Schuster, who was their leading receiver last year. I know Travis Kelce was the technical yardage leader, but then they tried to replace him with Rashee Rice, and I wasn't a huge fan of Rashee Rice in the draft. And Kadarius Toney, while he was great for them down the stretch, he really struggled to stay healthy in his first 2 seasons in the NFL. So I don't know. I had questions going into the season last year, but it was more like if Juju Smith-Schuster can be what he was a few seasons ago, then they'll be fine. This is like Travis Kelce's 34. Like eventually the wheels have to fall off. Like the receivers they're betting on don't look like safe bets, and so it's going to be interesting, I think, to watch the Chiefs this year.
Well, it's always interesting to watch the Chiefs.
Yeah,
but I can understand what you're saying. I think I mentioned this before in our other Chiefs videos. It's hard for me. I'm not going to make that mistake again with they don't have any receivers. Who are they going to throw to? How are they going to do this? And just because you just can't get rid of the greatness of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And so, as a Patriots fan, one of my least favorite reports was that when Tom Brady hit 40, he was going to fall off the cliff. There's the whole Max Kellerman cliff video. I think he made that prediction 7 times before Brady even retired. But
I don't want to be that guy who's like every year is doubting the Chiefs. I just think you look at the moves and what they've done, and like this roster is not as good as they were last year. And like the roster last year was not as good as it was the year before. And it's like now you've taken kind of 2 steps back, especially this division has loaded up in terms of talent. Like the Broncos might not be very good. The Raiders had a lot of turnover. The Chargers could be really good. We haven't gotten to them yet, but
yeah. And I think that's a fair point to say that there's now a little bit lack of veteran experience. Like Juju still did bring some veteran experience. Now you're relying on Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, and then also rookie and Rashee Rice as well. And MVS, like he does have he does have veteran experience, but he's not going to blow you out of the water or something like that. And so Travis Kelce is getting 33 now. I think
he'll be 34 in October.
So like he is getting up there in age, but he is a tight end, so it's a little bit different. But so I understand that argument. It's a long season, and at the end of the day, you know, greatness normally does prevail, and
this was like New England did this for years, and it was like Tom Brady was so great. Like in 2013, they made it all the way to the AFC Championship game, literally with Kimbrel Tompkins, Aaron Dobson, a second-round rookie, and then an undrafted rookie, unproven Julian Edelman after they let Wes Welker walk in free agency, and then Austin Collie, a player who was dismissed by the Indianapolis Colts because he had too many concussions. Like those are not elite weapons, and so I think that they also did have Gronk that year, but he was injured. So
it's almost like the exact same roster. You have a Hall of Fame tight end, and then a bunch of nobodies.
and like they made it all the way to the AFC Championship game. So it's like that. I understand does work to a certain level. It's just it's one of those things that it only works when your quarterback is an all-time great. So
no, I agree with that. And so let's move on though now to the NFC West, the Los Angeles Rams here, and this is going to be. I don't know what to think of the Rams this year. My only thing is they really only have Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald. No offense meant to the rest of the roster, but those are their 3 main guys, and even seems like Cooper Kupp is going to potentially even miss this first season. And so I was wanting to pick up on one of the rookie receivers that they had drafted, Puka Nacua. I think Puka Nacua can have a 1,000-yard season. There's just going to be opportunity there for him. Cooper Kupp, if he's still struggling with these hamstring injuries, I think that is going to be obviously a deal breaker for him, but it's going to create opportunity for Puka. And so if Matt Stafford, I was feeling that sneeze for like 20 seconds.
You're trying to fight through it?
I'm trying to fight through this take, trying to fight through this bold prediction, and then it finally came out. So glad it did. Anyways, just when you say Puka Nacua, it makes you have this.
Yeah.
So, but I think Puka is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. That's kind of a stretch. Totally admit that. But I'm also too just looking at the overall talent on the team. If Matt Stafford is going to have to throw to somebody, and if Cooper Kupp is consistently hurt with his hamstring, he is getting a little bit older as well. I just think there's going to be opportunity for him. It's Van Jefferson or Tutu Atwell or Puka. Then there's the Ben Skowronek as well. So it's I think Tyler Higbee is still on the team also.
He is.
Yeah. So it's like none of those names are like, oh yeah, that dude's getting 100+ targets this season. Yeah. You know. So I think there's opportunity.
I liked Puka Nacua a lot in the draft process. He didn't have the best Senior Bowl, but when you actually looked at his play at BYU, I forget the name of the YouTube channel, but they did like an aerial dominator rating, and basically it just talks about drop rate, contested catch rate, and then like broken tackles and yards after catch. And it was like he was like one of the top 10 receivers in that aerial dominator rating. And he ran, I think, in the 4.4s. He's 6'2", 200. So like that's plenty of speed. I like him as a receiver. He just struggled a little bit with injuries. He didn't play in the Senior Bowl game because he got injured on the first day. So that's going to be interesting. But Let's move on now to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are an interesting team. In general, Josh McDaniels has come in, completely flipped this roster. And one of the things that he did that I really liked, he brought in Aiden O'Connell from Purdue, and he looked really good in the preseason. And so by the end of the season, Aiden O'Connell is going to be leading this Las Vegas Raiders team. And I think he's going to throw for over 3,000 yards.
Oh, so that means he's been playing for a long time.
Yeah. I think
he had one hell of a game.
Yeah. Jimmy G will most likely at some point get injured. He has that foot injury. He's also, I didn't realize he's like 34, 35.
He's been around for a second. I met him when I worked at the Hall of Fame. I met him, and I was in 2013 because it was his rookie year. So he would have been 22 or 23. So he's about 33, I would say.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. And that's if he didn't take a redshirt year at all.
Yeah, it was 2014, by the way. So he might not be 30. He might be 32.
Okay. But so for me, I think Aiden O'Connell is going to become the starting quarterback at some point in the season, and we'll finish the season with over 3,000 passing yards.
Okay. I like it. That's I was not expecting that one, if I'm being
really
honest. Yeah. So I could have gone with like Max Crosby will lead the league in sacks, just thanks to Tyree Wilson and Chandler Jones now being on the team.
Yeah, but I'm an offensive guy, so I find those more fun.
That's fair. I think actually too, like most of our predictions have been defensively. So actually, here I will change it to that. The Bosa brother that Joey.
Nick.
Gosh, I swear I don't do that on purpose. I know it's Bosa, and then it's Nick is the 49ers.
Yeah, Nick's on the 49ers. Joey's on the Chargers.
That's ridiculous. I cannot get that. Anyways, I know there's some turnover here with the D'Amico Ryans and the 49ers, but I do believe that this 49ers team will have the number one defense in the league.
Okay. Even with the loss of D'Amico Ryans?
Yeah, even with the loss of D'Amico Ryans. His protege took his spot there, and then they still have – I mean, you still have Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa, whichever. I think they just rotate since they're both in California. Or it's the same guy, actually.
It's like twins that switch places.
Yeah. No, it's the same guy, but then he just needs double the money. So he'll just go back and forth. So
I think that's actually called fraud.
Hey, as long as he gets sacks, I don't think the teams really care. But then they still have Fred Warner, and then they still have just overall just a lot of good talent. They have Javon Hargrave now as well. So and also too on top of that, part of it as well is, I mean, they're going to be playing against the Cardinals and the Rams 4 times total between the two, so that's going to help out their stats.
Yeah. No, I mean, they still have an elite edge rusher. They got Javon Hargraves, as you said. Fred Warner might be the best defender in football at the moment. Yeah. So I like it. I also think teams are going to have to keep up with this offense because they're going to be super explosive. You got to think if Brock Purdy's doing that at the end of his rookie year, imagine what Kyle Shanahan could have him doing throughout his second year.
Well, and that was another one, too. I was thinking I was going back and forth between the one I chose, and then also I used this with the Cowboys, but I think they could also have 3,000-yard receivers. But I think it could be amongst multiple people. I think Kittle, Ayuk, Samuel, and McCaffrey are all contenders to have 1,000 receiving yards. Mm-hmm. So, actually, maybe not McCaffrey, just because they are going to use him less. They want to keep him healthy. Yeah, and I do have Elijah Mitchell as well, so they'll probably be using him some more. So I don't know if McCaffrey can get 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he'll have 1,000 rushing, but we'll see about receiving. But last but not least, for the AFC as a whole, we're going to do the Los Angeles Chargers. This one, it kind of plays into my Kansas City prediction, but I think the Los Angeles Chargers will win the division in 2023. For me, this team, they should have really beaten them in Kansas City last year. Brendan Staley got a little ahead of himself and threw a pick 6 that definitely altered the course of the game. And I just think this team, they're coming back. They're going to be healthier. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder, I think, from that Jacksonville loss. They added Quentin Johnston, which I think people are slightly underestimating because that's going to take the load off of both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And Austin Eckler, one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. So I just really like this team. I think they're going to win the division.
No, this team is very good. I do agree with you on that. The one thing with the Quentin Johnston, I think I saw Josh Palmer is going to be the third receiver on the depth chart. So, but that being said, though, I do still like Quentin Johnston because then they can still do 4 receiver sets. Donald Parham, I think, is their tight end, and then Gerald Everett as well. But that being said, though, I would rather have a 4 receiver set with Austin Eckler in the backfield than the tight end. So, especially then, too, their offensive line keeps improving. So,
and it should. That Jamari Salyer from Georgia is going into his second year, and he was one of the bright spots of that offensive line when everybody got hurt. Corey Linsley and Rashawn Slater are coming back from injury as well. So, like, that's already – you're going to have 2 Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber players, and then a potential Pro Bowl guy in Jamari Salyer, and then the other 2 spots should kind of fill in themselves.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, on to the last bold prediction here. The Seattle Seahawks wrapping up the NFC West. They will win the division in 2023. So I don't know how much of a bold prediction that is, just because I think they made clear strides forward while the 49ers did say kind of status quo. And they're still really good. It's going to be a close division race, but I think the Seahawks are going to be able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it is a 2-horse race. San Francisco, I think, is still the better team as of right now. With that being said, Seattle did a lot to close the gap, in my opinion. Jackson Smith and Jigba was a great pick. Devon Witherspoon was also a great pick. Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen, a year or 2 from now, could be one of the best cornerback duos in the NFL.
Yeah,
so it's gonna be a lot of fun watching those 2 teams go at it. Especially, do they play in Week 18?
No, I don't think they do.
No, they play the Seahawks play the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like how that one's TBD. Like that game's not going to mean anything because if Seattle needs to win, they're going to win. The Cardinals will tank for sure.
Yeah, if that could be the difference between the first pick and like the third pick for them.
Absolutely. Let's wrap this up here with just the final bold prediction. Ryan, who do you think is going to be Super Bowl champs?
If we're gonna do bold predictions, I feel like I can't pick the obvious ones. Like the Eagles, Kansas City, like those 2 are really the obvious ones. I hate to do it. I'm leaning towards the New York Jets as like my bold prediction. I could say the Lions, but I think you're going to take that one. So I'll go with the New York Jets. I think the addition of Aaron Rodgers, this defense was so good last year, especially when Quinnen Williams was in the lineup. They just get to play exactly how they want. While I didn't like the Will McDonald pick, I do understand how he fits into that system. And that's a little scary to think about when you have all that pressure coming off the edge with a guy like Quinnen Williams in the middle. So it's going to be interesting. I'll go with the Jets here for the final prediction.
I like the Jets. That's a good one. For my bold prediction, I'll say the Lions. I just like rooting for them. But I actually, though, the team who I think actually they're probably like my favorite is the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to do it this year. That's going to be the one to me. I think they match up well against the Eagles. They definitely, they play great against the Chiefs. Those games are always amazing. And so that's going to be the team who I really have my eyes on this year because it just getting Orlando Brown Jr. They do have a young secondary, yes, but at the same time, though, they're I don't want to say their secondary was weak. Like the cornerbacks were weak. But they did lose Jesse Bates and Von Bell, but they drafted well and have guys coming in on rookie contracts that they've developed who should be able to take their place. But the front seven still,
who's the other guy? DJ Turner.
Yeah, DJ Turner they drafted from Michigan in this past draft. But even then, their front seven is really good, led by Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. And then offensively, it's one of the best offenses in the league. Once that offensive line starts clicking, it's game over. And so
another team, and like this is such an odd pick in my head. I really like the Steelers because if they can get to the playoffs, that is not a team I want to play in January. And they get after the passer as good as anyone in the league. They stuff the run as good as anyone in the league. And if they can start running the football and get that play action game going for Kenny Pickett and Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, like that's a really tough team. I'm not going to put them in my Super Bowl category, but I just I'm thinking of teams that I don't want to play in January.
It's a bold prediction.
Yeah, and that is a team that's like they could beat anybody.
Yeah.
And granted the season hasn't started yet. They haven't had injuries and things like that, but they could show up and beat anybody on any given day.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. They drafted well. I still remember as one of the first videos that this channel had was the 2021 draft.
Yeah.
Why are you taking Najee Harris? Like, you need offensive line help. And now it's like he has the potential to be one of the best running backs in the league. Jaylen Warren has also, though, has been really good in the preseason as well. There's been talks about them splitting snaps, which is even just I say that just
but that I have Najee Harris in fantasy, and that doesn't concern me because I kind of like the idea of some of the load being taken off him.
Makes sense.
So
yeah,
but yeah. All right. Any other bold predictions? Who do you think is going to lead the league in passing this year?
I think you mentioned. I think Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry for rushing.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson for receiving.
Yeah. Oh, you think the Eagles are going to have another 70-sack season?
Potentially. It all depends on Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter is going to be the one. If he can come in and they keep providing that pressure, it's going to allow Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, all those guys on the outside, N'Kobe Dean and everything, to just keep feasting.
So here's an interesting one that we can talk about for a second. I know it is a little late, but the rookie sack record is 14.5 sacks by Javon Curse. Do you think Jalen Carter has a shot at breaking that?
14.5? No.
Yeah.
Wasn't Curson a defensive end?
By a rookie.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but wasn't he a defensive end? Not a tackle.
Yeah, that's just the most sacks by a rookie.
Oh, okay. Well, so I say that though because I don't think I don't think he can do that because also too he's going to be splitting time with him and Jordan Davis as well. With Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis.
Yeah, they'll have a rotation. I will say they do run a bit of like a 3-4. They run like a kind of a hybrid scheme where like they run 4 down linemen with like an outside linebacker sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's just a weird like setup. But anyways,
if we're going to
it works.
If we're going to talk about who could do it, like I would lean towards Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson first. Maybe even Tyree Wilson, just because you go look at Max Crosby on the other side.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he can't do it, but
they also still have Chandler Jones there too. So like in terms of splitting, like they're going to have a heavy 3-edge rotation, which is like that's a terrifying 3-edge rotation.
Yeah.
Especially too like on sub packages like 3rd and long. They could kick Tyree Wilson into the inside.
Yeah, they'll just take
and basically just have him be a big or a smaller edge defender, and then like, all right, you have a guard taking on Tyree Wilson, and then your tackle is taking on Chandler Jones or Max Crosby. Like that's
just take off all the defensive tackles and just go Jones, Wilson, and Max Crosby.
Well, they'd still have two other defensive tackles.
Oh yeah.
So
I see what you're saying now.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting like thing. I think Jalen Carter has a chance though to break that record. How many sacks did Javon Hargraves have last year?
He had 9.5 last year.
I thought he had double digits.
Maybe 10. Double check that for me.
He had 11.
Okay. All right.
So.
All right. I do see we have a couple people here in the chat. If you got any quick questions about the 2023 season or any comments about the bowl predictions here. Divine Comedy, how's it going, my man?
But yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, I'm just looking forward to Thursday, man. It'll be my daughter's first birthday. Football season starts. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun evening.
Yeah.
Lions, Chiefs could be a Super Bowl preview. I would love for that to be a Super Bowl preview.
That actually be a really good game.
That would be a really good game.
Sorry, I want to give people a few seconds to write a question, but what do you think the actual chances of the Lions making the Super Bowl? Like, I think they're almost, I don't want to say a lock to win the division because anything can happen.
I will say this. It's the best chances they've had in a really long time.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make a Super Bowl, though. I mean,
you have to almost luck into it.
Well, I don't know about luck into it. I don't know if that's the way I would say it because, the Chiefs or the Bengals last year making the Super Bowl, if whoever won that game totally deserved to be in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? The Eagles and the 49ers, in my opinion, last year deserved to be in the Super Bowl. The Eagles maybe got lucky that the 49ers had no quarterback after the second quarter. And so you could make that argument. But even then, though, that would completely dismiss the entire season, I would think, that the Eagles had. You can maybe be lucky just when it comes to maybe the injury bug, both in avoiding it for your team, but also playing teams that are suffering from the injury bug. So I can understand that argument in the luck aspect. But at the end of the day, though, you need to have the best 53-man team roster. You know, there's not a team. Yeah. It's not a team whose roster looks like the Cardinals, and then all of a sudden they make the Super Bowl.
No, there was the Bengals that one 2 years ago when they made the Super Bowl, where it was they're 2 years away from being really competitive, but they have a lot of really good pieces, and then it's okay, holy crap, they just are dropping 40 on everybody. Yeah, well, but but even though you could make an argument. Gee, that really hurt my ears. I hit my earbuds. Yeah. But even then, though, still, it's as a March Chase rookie year, that offense was still electric. Yeah.
How they got there with how awful that offensive line was.
Well,
you can make an argument that.
Yeah,
that was.
And then also too, the year before that, Buffalo Bills, or no, I guess that was 2 years ago. But the Buffalo Bills game, Kansas City literally won that game off of a coin toss. They made the most of the opportunity off the coin toss, but I would be very hard to believe that Buffalo would not have gone down and also scored a touchdown if instead of heads that coin landed on tails.
So yes, but at the same time, my only thing with those arguments are that the Bills wanted to win that game. They just needed to make one stop at any point throughout the game, and they couldn't. Yeah. So all that prop goes to the Chiefs there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
to say that was lucky though, I mean, the luck landed on their favor in the coin toss, but also but the Chiefs though also could have avoided putting their fate up to the Bills' hands or up to a coin toss by them also making a stop, one random throughout the final crazy 100 seconds of that game. Yeah. So I do see what you're saying.
Yeah. And then also Brock Purdy getting hurt, not saying that would have affected the game. They're the result of the game, but it would have made it harder, at least for the Eagles, if Brock Purdy could actually have thrown the football. So, I don't know. I think as much skill goes into it, a couple unlucky things go your way, and then it's all of a sudden you're out of the playoffs. You're done. So, Divine Comedy left a comment: Lions, Seahawks, Saints, Eagles are going to win divisions. 49ers, Packers, Cowboys going to be wild cards. So I agree with Lions. I could see Seahawks, and I definitely agree with the Eagles. One thing with the Eagles, I think this record still stands, but no team has won that division 2 years in a row in 12 years. And so that'll be interesting. It's one of those weird things that, people like me who don't have stats to base things off of say. But the Saints, I'm not a super big fan of the Saints. Marshall Lattimore is getting older. That defense in itself lost a few pieces this offseason. Outside of Chris Olave, they don't really have a whole lot of offensive weapons. They spent a bunch of money on Derek Carr instead of addressing, the receiver problem, and two, this offensive line was not super great last year, and that didn't really make any changes. Alvin Kamara suspended for 3 games. It's just an interesting division. I think you look on the flip side, Falcons defense got better, Falcons offense got better, Panthers defense got better, and their offense also got better. So
yeah, I just think the Saints are just a huge conundrum, and as a Falcons fan, I'll be the first one to say if the Falcons go then 0-7 and be like, okay, I was just completely wrong, and the Saints are 7-0. My thing is, I feel like the Saints have been doing this now for a couple of years, ever since Drew Brees retired, where it's a very similar roster, and it's just this weird turnover. I think Derek Carr can come in and fix all their problems. I think there's more problems that they're just denying and pushing on. And so, just as you mentioned, the offensive line really lack of just overall, in my opinion, skill player talent. Outside of Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara is getting older, and so I think they could solve that by getting Derek Carr, Jamal Williams, and so. I think that they lost some pieces on defense. Cameron Jordan is getting older as well. So that's just how I see it. But at the same time, though, maybe Derek Carr is the solution. Like maybe Andy Dalton was just holding this team back. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, I think Russell Wilson, as we talked about already, is a good example. Just because you pay a quarterback a bunch of money doesn't mean that he's going to be the savior for your team. And that's why I think it's a complete 53-man job, like the best 53-man team normally wins a Super Bowl every single year, And so that division is absolutely up for grabs. Desmond Ridder is still pretty unproven. Bryce Young's definitely unproven. Baker Mayfield has proven that he is a journeyman quarterback now. So Derek Carr is the best quarterback in that division, absolutely. But I think it's going to be more. I think you're going to need more than that. I agree with the 49ers and the Cowboys, and I can see the Packers making the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Packers, they're going to be in that kind of fight, I think, for between the Giants and the Commanders. And then I will say, in this instance, if the Saints win the divisions, I'd have to throw the Falcons in that wild card spot as well, just because they have a very easy schedule. And they play the Commanders. They play the Packers, actually. And so they also play the Bears as well. I think the Bears you might be able to include in there as well because they have a pretty easy schedule also. It's very interesting. A lot of depth on both sides. Not as good of a reason of depth for a playoff spot for the NFC as it is for the AFC. AFC is loaded on that side. I'm curious, Divine Comedy, if you're still here, what's your AFC division breakouts looking like? So, but it's going to be fun to watch. And this is where it's like we were talking about this, all of this speculation. It's fun in the beginning, but then we've been doing it now for the entire month of July and August. So now I'm really looking forward to seeing who's right instead of us saying like, no, like you're wrong, Saints fan, and Saints fan be like, no, you're wrong, Falcons fan. I'm like, okay, all right, well, looking forward to just playing and seeing who's right.
Yeah. It's, I guess, especially too, like when you do this, and we've done this, we talk on football, we're talking all throughout the offseason about football. And so now, like, we're finally here. We've watched these teams make all the moves to get where they are now. And it's just like, I'm ready to see that product on the field. And so I'm really excited for Thursday. As you said, probably going to go celebrate your daughter's birthday. So I'm looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. I don't know who's in. There's 2 people in here.
Oh, hi, Mom.
But I don't know. I don't know if I can see who it is.
It is getting pretty late, though. It's probably just wrapping up here soon.
Yeah. But, all right, I guess right there we're going to wrap it up unless Divine Comedy comments his AFC picks before I finish this. But thank you guys for watching. If you have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this episode. Let us know if you liked our bold predictions. Let us know if you hated our bold predictions. Just keep in mind they are bold predictions. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.